Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. You are watching Yankees Unloaded and following a Yankees win. So they won the rubber match against the Texas Rangers 8-7, a game that was 8-3, a game that, let's talk about something, Gary. I don't know if you're aware of this. I didn't actually mention this to you off air. But the Yankees are now 63-3 when leading in the 8th inning. Okay. It's interesting because they almost blew this game today. They did. It's very real. We're going to talk about the game. We have our topics that we'll get to as well. We want to talk about good, though, because there are a lot of good things going on. I want to talk about Marcus Stroman right off the bat. I mean, they needed Marcus Stroman to kind of work his way back to where he was. And I get, he only pitched 5 innings. He had 89 pitches, not a ton. And he only struck out 1 batter, but it was I thought, an efficient day. I thought he could have kept pitching personally, but I was totally fine when they took him out because you had Jake Cousins that was ready to go and he struck out 3. But Stroman gave you what you needed. And that to me goes a long way. This has now been back to back to back where you've actually gotten decent starting pitching. And I'd love to see the 6th and 7 innings, but Gary, I'll tell you right now, I think the days of that are long gone. I think that happened because it was early in the season. I think it's easier on pitchers. I think it's harder on hitters earlier in the season. And I think we're just seeing hitters are ready to go now. Hitters are ready to go. There are obviously going to be guys in slumps, and we're aware of that. But, I thought Heaney didn't pitch all that bad, and he still came out in under 5 innings of work. So I think it's just the reality of the situation now. Like, you're in August and we're starting to see, pitchers essentially are not going to go as long. So I would just say 5 innings from Stroman after he's given us, you have brought up multiple times, 6 innings total in the last 2. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And let's be clear here, Jake. Before the season ever started, we talked about Marcus Stroman's expectations. And when we gave predictions about what to expect from all of our players, right? Position players, pitchers, we really honed in on starting pitchers going total innings. Where are we getting outs from? And we put a huge emphasis on how many innings each pitcher in our rotation was going to give us total, right? We penciled Garrett Cole in for around 200. We didn't foresee the injury. But you have Marcus Stroman, and I mentioned the magic number, about 135 innings. And after that, you tend to see Marcus Stroman fall off a cliff. Now, is it because he's 5'7", $180, soaking wet? Perhaps, right? There's a reason that a lot of these guys who throw 200 innings are built more like Corbin Burns and less like Marcus Stroman. Now, that doesn't mean he can't be effective, but when you see velocity drop off, you tend to see it more with a smaller build player. And from Marcus Stroman's standpoint, when you're watching him pitch, if you look at the radar gun, and I know we always have, it's like a wet dream for everybody to see someone throw 97, 98 miles an hour. Marcus Stroman is throwing 88 to 91 miles an hour right now. He's not lighting up the radar gun. And if you pay attention to the way he's trying to pitch, his game plan is down and away, comeback sinker, down and away, slider off the plate, down and away. Not very many pitches in off the plate, not very many pitches on the inside corner. He's really trying to stay away from the inner part of the plate, in large part because he knows if I make a mistake in that part of the plate, it's going into the bleachers. That's something he knows. And when we said about predictions and what we needed from Marcus Stroman, Jake, you said it, I said it, and a lot of our audience said it. We need an ERA in the low 4s. Just be a solid pitcher. Give us 135 innings. Be a solid arm for us, at least in the first half of the year. Pick your spots in the second half. Marcus Stroman did that today. I mentioned before the game, I needed 5 2/3. He fell a little short of that. He went 5, but he was fine today. He was fine. He did exactly what he had to do, which was keep the Yankees in the game. That's your job. The Yankees are scoring right now. They're scoring often. They're getting a lot of hits. There are some guys who are waking up, guys like Verdugo. Obviously, Volpe's kind of fallen off of late, but more guys than not are hitting for this Yankees team. Guys like Stan, he's come back. So you just need to be decent. and keep this offense in the game. If you can do that, the Yankees can win all these games. But when you come out and you go 6 full innings in 2 full starts, that's not going to get it done. You're losing the game by the 2nd or 3rd inning. He managed to evade that today, and the Yankees win because of it.
Yeah. I thought, you go back to his last start, against Toronto, and that slurve was just catching way too much plate, to your point. And I thought the slurve today was great. He was, hitting the corners, down and away, down and inside. And I thought you saw, some really good results from it. Now he's still going to walk batters, and he's not, a big time strikeout pitcher. But again, I thought, he did a nice job today, like you mentioned. So wanted to, we'll get to Clay Holmes and all of that. I wanted to start off with Stroman. I mentioned Cousins, but I didn't want to just dive right into all the pitching so far, because the hitting today was pretty good, and it's been pretty good. And once again, this is a team that has been hitting, getting 8, 9 hits, 10 hits, what have you. Offense seems to be in full force right now. 8 runs today. Now, this was more of an old school Yankee game. You had 4 home runs. Judge, Stanton, and Soto ×2.
Is it 2017?
It felt like it. It definitely felt like it. Stanton now has 20. So, Gary, that means there are 4 players in Yankee uniforms that have at least 20 home runs or more.
Yeah, because I guess Jazz Chisholm, I know he hit most of them in Miami, but he's hit 7 for us, I believe. So
remember what I said about Jazz Chisholm?
Yeah, you did say he'd be a star here, which I'm still not committing to it.
Well,
but
no,
I mean, he's been
what else
spectacular.
did I say? I said I think he can hit 30 home runs.
You did say this, yeah. I kind of pictured that. Oh, you meant 30 this year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, that's bold. I mean, I'll give that to you. There's an opportunity for that to happen.
He might not get it, but it'll be close.
But can I give a special shout out to Matt Blake? I know no one's thinking about this, but you have to remember I played baseball growing up, and there's certain nerdy aspects of the game that I think are just huge, right?
I'm with you.
And sometimes it changes the dynamic of the game. Now, the situation I want to bring everyone to was when it was 2-0 and Giancarlo Stanton was taking his at bat in the bottom half of the 5th. Now, a lot of people criticize Giancarlo and say a lot of his home runs that he hit are so useless. We don't need them. There's not really a point to them. And that 3-run home run that he hit in the bottom half of the 5th changed the entire complexion of the top half of the 6th. And here's how. When we gave up a leadoff walk, and that was Marcus Stroman, of course, he eventually gives up a double down the right field line to Corey Seager. So now there is now a man on second base, and it's 5-1. So now that that's the situation, we bring in Cousins out of the bullpen, and he gets into a 3-ball count. It's now 3-2, okay? With a dangerous hitter in Marcus Semien at the plate. Matt Blake takes his visit to the mound, okay? And I knew exactly what Matt Blake was doing. He came out there, and he said, your best pitch today is your slider. Anyone who watched the game would tell you, Jake Cousins' slider today was absolutely filthy. I knew
it always is.
He was going to say, hey, pitch to the score. It's 5-1. He's looking dead red fastball. Your best pitch is your slider right here. If you make a good one, if it's even competitive, Marcus Semien is out. Very next pitch, wipe out slider on the corner. What did you see the rest of the inning? You saw to Jung, Langford, slider, slider, slider. No chance. So this is something that these pitching coaches, I know people don't really pay a ton of attention. I know the Yankees fans probably pay more attention to their assistants than maybe any other organization. But in games that are 8-7, you don't usually see conversations about them. That impacted the game. It just did. Because you know what often happens, whether you've got nasty stuff or not, when you get in 3-ball counts, what do you usually see? You see the sinker. We saw it right in that Boston series where Holmes gave up a 2-run bomb to tie the game. And you say, how does that happen? Well, the count dictated the pitch that he had to throw, and it led to a 2-run homer. Matt Blake played off of that, went to the slider, and it benefited the Yankees, saying, actually won them the game. I didn't think this was going to be a 1-run game. I'll be totally honest with you, But those are the moments that actually change an entire week. If we had lost this game, I mean, what's the conversation right now? What does our comment section look like? I tell you right now, it would be mayhem. It would have been the worst loss of the season. And you're talking about a below 500 homestand against below 500 baseball teams, against Anaheim, Texas. Both teams essentially are failing this year and selling. So if that had happened, I mean, it would have been mayhem. So this was a huge win for the Yankees, and I wanted to make sure Matt Blake got his credit.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that. I also want to point out, according to Baseball Savant, Andrew Heaney had the most swing and misses today with 9. Jake Cousins had 5. He was in second place today. Tied with Clay Holmes, to be fair. So Clay Holmes was actually missing some bats today, even if it didn't feel like it. Yeah.
I mean, he threw 46 pitches. I mean, I'd hope he was missing some bats, but I mean, it's better. It's better than none.
But let's go back to Stanton, because that home run, I said it to you. I texted you immediately. That was a Gary Sheffield home run. And I say,
you know how many messages on Instagram I got? Probably 15 of people saying, bro, your dad would hit this. Your dad would have hit a ball like this. You know, I really do wonder. Do you think I just don't know, because people say, like, obviously my dad hit the ball hard, but I really wonder how hard he was hitting the ball, because we were just relying on our eyes. Like, we would go to the park, show up and watch BP. Like, I wonder
saw the same type of home runs with your dad. Now, it's not to say your dad couldn't hit a 500-foot home run, you know, if he was, you know, in, say, you know, a home run derby or whatever. But I mean, there were times where, you know, he would just rip one. That was just, when they say frozen rope, it would be a frozen rope, and it would just be hugging the foul pole. I mean, I remember that distinctively. I was at this game back at the old Yankee Stadium with my father, and yeah, it was the Yankees and Blue Jays, and I'm pretty sure, I want to say Roy Halladay was the starter that game, and your dad smoked one, like absolutely smoked one to the left field foul pole.
So you think my dad was hitting balls like Giancarlo hit today?
I think we need a StatCast. We need to give StatCast homework. They need to go back and they need to find that out, because
how has no one come up with this, by the way, by using cameras to go back in time and reveal exit velocity? This would be the greatest idea ever.
Yeah, I really think he was hitting it like 110 off the bat. Not every time, but I think like around that. I think he, like, what we saw today with, and I want to make this clear, you know, I said it was a Gary Sheffield home run. I meant the velocity. That Stanton hitting it like that was like Vladimir Guerrero today. I've never seen Stanton hit a ball away from him like that and pull it. The amount of strength it takes to take a ball on the other side of the plate and almost in the other batter's box and rip it to pull it down the line like that. Like they said, that was a 400-foot line drive. What are we doing?
You know what they always tell me in the offseason? They always tell me Giancarlo Stanton is this big, bulky player, and he's going to lose weight this offseason. I remember someone showing me a picture of Giancarlo, and it looked like, do you remember the movie 50 Cent made where he was like the dude who lost a ton of weight and he almost died in the hospital, and he's like super skinny in the hospital bed? They treat Giancarlo Stanton like that every offseason. They go, look at him. He's anemic. He's going to break in half. And then he gets here to the regular season, hits a ball like he did today, which was like 118 off the bat, is I think what you told me. And his biceps are like in damn 3D on Yes Network. Ridiculous.
He's hitting off of like one knee. He's not even getting the full, like, he's not keeping his weight on his back foot. I mean, this is all arm strength. He's like,
he's not a regular baseball. It's definitely not beautiful. I think even Giancarlo would tell you he doesn't have a pretty baseball swing. It's essentially brute strength. And obviously he's incredibly skilled.
And in a way, it is kind of beautiful because it's so different. It's like,
well, when he misses, it's not beautiful. I'll tell you that. When he swings and misses, it's ugly. Like if Ken Griffey Jr. swung and missed, it would look beautiful.
Well, like when Trent Grisham hits a home run, it looks hilarious because it looks
It's
like he's
awful.
not even using a full swing. But when he hits
No.
it, you're like, that actually kind of looks kind of cool. I'm not
No,
going
he
to
has a
complain.
wiffle ball swing is
Yeah.
essentially what Trent Grisham has. He looks like Trent Grisham swings as a lefty. And mind you, I've been a pro Trent Grisham guy on this podcast. Like,
You
don't get
have?
me wrong, I've questioned why he was like kind of there. But Trent Grisham swings the bat lefty like a right-handed amateur does in a wiffle ball game where they get to swing lefty. Like you're trying to be
That
Ichiro
was
for a
me
second.
the
Yeah,
other
and you're
day.
hitting lefty as Griffey. You really look like Trent Grisham. So
That's so, and you think you look like Griffey, but you're like, nah. Everyone's just
no,
like,
you don't look
no.
like Griffey, and you never have.
Yep, exactly. And it's so funny you say that. Soto had 2 home runs that you just no doubters. Like right away. You're like, what's Heen Dog doing over there? Like Chafin also
Well,
threw.
Chafin gave up one of them,
Yeah.
who, by the way, came from Arizona. I know he's had a few stops since, I think with Milwaukee. Chafin's been giving up bombs. I know every other year he kind of finds his gear. This was not one of them. This was
No.
you don't
Back-to-back home runs.
no.
Back-to-back home runs. And it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, and you can't hate on Texas because Aaron Judge hits the home run after Soto, right?
Mhm.
But earlier in the 5th inning, Aaron Judge was intentionally walked, which brought up Stanton, and he hit the 3-run shot. So you can't say, well, why didn't they intentionally walk Judge? Well, this is what happens when guys hitting around Judge and hitting around Soto. And I wanted to bring this up because I forgot who shared it on Twitter. I'd give him credit, but I totally forgot. I wrote down the notes, but I didn't write that. Yeah, anyway, Stanton has a 280 batting average. He has an 800 OPS and only 3 strikeouts in his last 25 plate appearances since coming back from the IL.
With
Stanton
no
is hitting
rehab
well,
assignment.
with none whatsoever. And he's only had 3 strikeouts in 25 plate appearances. This is a guy that strikes out like crazy, and he's not striking out. So Stanton with a 4 RBI day, right? You have Stanton hitting well. Wells has been great. So now you have those two hitting around Judge and Soto. You have Verdugo, who's not consistently hitting well, but he's had his moments, especially in that leadoff spot where
They're
he's had an
platooning him and Glaber.
opportunistic. Yes, he's had opportunistic at bats. Glaber's had opportunistic at bats. Chisholm has been hitting 7 home runs in his last 13 games or whatever. Volpe just started to struggle. We'll touch on that later on the show. And LeMahieu is now hitting because he had a 2-hit day.
He's almost hitting 200.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. This is what happens when everyone around, and we've said this so many times on the show, when everyone around picks up the pace around Judge and Soto, guess what? I can't walk Judge now because if I walk Judge, I'm essentially giving Stanton another RBI opportunity. That's what I'm doing. And I can't walk Stanton because then I get to Wells, who's been outstanding when, the Call of Duty came up, right? So this is the thing. This is actually kind of exciting. Is that the Yankees, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying, how, pitchers aren't really having the length late in the year. The Yankees are getting hot. Now, unfortunately, Volpe kind of missed the bus on this series for whatever reason. I don't know if he'll figure it out next series or whatever. But I like what I'm seeing from the Yankee bats. And I really like how this team, as of late, it's no joke. Say what you will about the bullpen, because I see a lot of comments, not right now, but we see your comments. A lot of comments have been saying, this bullpen scares me. I'm over this bullpen. I'll say this. I don't think the bullpen's that bad. I think the bullpen is misused.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And I think this is actually really important because I'm actually on the side of the people who worry. You've mentioned, okay, the overall numbers, this bullpen's been better than what we've covered it as, right? Yeah. You've got a lot of guys who have emerged and given us an output, but we're not necessarily giving those guys credit. But it seems like if Stanton's back, if Austin Wells is going to be a 250 guy with pop and he's in the 4 spot, and then when you're facing lefties, he's in the 5 spot and in the lineup.
Yeah.
Gleyber Torres is now your 6. Jazz Chisholm is your 7 hitter. Anthony Volpe's hidden at 8th. If these things are all happening, in theory, I believe this offense is more well-rounded than all those offenses that we've seen in the past that hit 260 homers a year. It's like the Luke Voits, the Gary Sanchez, like all those guys.
Oh, without
they'll
a doubt.
go hit you 36 homers, which is awesome. But they hit 36 bombs and hit 206 and struck out 200 times. So you have to remember a lot of that production's coming against 3 through 5 starters in the big leagues. And that's majority of the games you play in this league. It's still professional baseball, no question about it. Very important games to be played. But how do those players who hit homers against 5 starters, right? The dudes who hit homers against guys like Marcus Stroman while they're struggling, how does that help you when you go face 35-year-old Justin Verlander, who was pitching for Houston a couple of years ago? How does that help you? And the answer, and we found that out as Yankees fans, it doesn't help you at all. You know why? Because dudes who hit 36 bombs, like you might have a dude hit 25 bombs, right? Strike out a ton like Luke Voit. He's not going to do anything when you face the ace of another staff. He's not going to be able to make a productive out the other way. By no means is going to be able to drop down a bunt. But what the Yankees have done with a couple of these guys in our lineup, some of them we should have upgraded on, no question about it. Like I've mentioned before, like I'm not going to act like Gleyber Torres is a part of the future that I wanted. It's not.
No, exactly.
But we have to remember there are a lot of guys. There are guys that we did add to this team in Jazz Chisholm who can do those things. It's the opposite, right? Alex Verdugo, he's been a player I would absolutely describe as a player who's struggling for this team. He's struggling. But at the same time, he's still going to be a better at bat in October based on style of what is actually played. The game that's being played fits the style of an Anthony Volpe. I know he's 0 for his last 19. I get it. But 2 weeks ago when he was hitting well, everyone's like, wow, he's hitting line drives. He's playing a good shortstop. He can drop down a bunt when we need him to. He can turn the lineup over. We were talking about all these things. At least style-wise, these players can adapt. Yes, they should have been better, but I would tell you this. When it comes to this bullpen conversation, I would much rather have an offense that's hitting going in October than having a super bullpen with great starting pitching and an offense that's looking to only hit the ball out of the ballpark. I think it's a failing proposition. I don't think it works at all. And do I think we're going to win the World Series? Not really. But do I like my chances better than throwing a bunch of dudes out there like Gary Sanchez and hoping he hits 2 bombs up against one of the best pitchers in the league? No, I thought that was never going to work. And I've covered that before. People ignored it, and then it became their own idea. But in this moment, I'm going to roll with the offense that's been consistent this last 3 weeks. Frankly, if we get mediocre starting pitching, 5 innings, 3 runs surrendered, we're pretty much winning every night.
That's the thing. Because if you look at the Yankees, they don't really lose games when starting pitching gives you 5 innings, 6 innings, what have you. Now, the other night, Garrett Cole pitches well. You know, you get a weird outing from Luke Weaver that he probably doesn't do that the rest of the year. That's probably like the only big blow up inning he's going to have. But you can lose games that way. What I liked about the Yankees today, and I mean, today was frustrating because they should have won 8-3. Should have been the game. I'm not going to get too much into that at this moment because we'll talk about the ending of this and all that. But what I liked was that once again, you know, on the show, we mentioned a lot of stats. We mentioned splits. We really try to inform you guys, keep you guys up to date on things that, you know, maybe kind of slip your mind. Like maybe we didn't, you know, you weren't aware Stanton was hitting 280 since he came back, which is impressive. And he's only struck out 3 times. Another thing we like to point out, splits, like I mentioned, we just talked about it. The Yankees notoriously this year are the worst team in baseball against left-handed starting pitchers. And today they won. And they got on Heaney. I don't think Heaney pitched that bad, but they got to him enough, take him out of the game. They beat up Leclerc. They beat up Festa. They beat up, I don't have to tell you about Chafin, But this was a good. I really liked their approach today. I thought they were aggressive. I think what Volpe's going through is right now, he's in a slump. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it is mechanical, which I say unfortunately because this is what I was afraid of, that he was just going to, every time he goes into a slump, it's him trying to change up his mechanics and all that.
Do you remember what I said about that as well?
Yeah, I do.
Because a lot of people, and this is accurate. We'll just say him by name, Michael K.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll mention the mechanics, right? Absolutely. It's valid to bring up the mechanics. You watch someone swing and you say, well, when it was going right, this is what the swing looked like on screen. And then when he's not playing well, this is the difference.
Yeah,
right?
Paul O'Neill brought that up today.
Paul O'Neill brings this up. Well, what's so interesting about this is, I always say this: you are who you most often are. It doesn't matter that you hit 350 or you gave us a flash for 3 weeks. Remember, I'm rooting for Anthony Volpe to play well. The version of Anthony Volpe you saw a week and a half ago, that's the version that I'm hoping to see permanently. It benefits our show. It benefits all of us as an audience. It benefits all of us, every single one of us. If he plays well, if he becomes the star the Yankees protected in the trade market. But how is it that I can call something a slump when 2.5 months ago you were in a 2-month slump? So if you're in a slump for the majority of the season and then you hit 205 your rookie year, have you just been in a slump this whole time?
I mean, that's fair.
It's not. It cannot be that you're a great player. I think Volpe can be a very good player in this league, but if you're slumping for 2 months, you hit 120 for a 60-day stretch with no pop at all, and then you go to the All-Star break, you give me like a 2-week stretch where the Yankees are winning ball games again, you're scoring a ton of runs. Remember, let's put this into perspective. That's a 2-week stretch. This is not 2 months. Anthony Volpe didn't hit. He didn't give us like a Bobby Witt Jr. month where he hit 500. Okay, because remember that happened. Okay, so he didn't do that. It was a very short sample size, and so after that 2-week stretch, he's now hitting. He's 0 for his last 20. Well, I'm sorry, Jake. We can't have it where you go 0 for 20 and then you hit 380 over your next 12 at bats and we go, oh, he's back. He's Volpe again. And then he goes 0 for 25. There needs to be a baseline from Anthony Volpe that we can come to expect. And right now, there just is none. We can get an 0 for series or we can get a really good player. I just don't know what we're getting as of yet.
No, I get that. And you mentioned, I really want to bring this up, because you mentioned Witt Jr. And I'm so tired of hearing this. Bobby Witt Jr., is he MVP over Aaron Judge? Aaron Judge, okay, I think we need to address this. No one's brought this up in the comments section. They might not even be aware of this. This is a common thing now, Gary. There are a lot of people that are now trying to make the argument that Bobby Witt Jr. is more deserving for MVP than Aaron Judge. I'll tell you right now, I know Soto had 2 home runs today. Soto is now hitting 304. Okay. Aaron Judge, I can't believe I'm going to say this, has turned into what I believe is the best pure hitter on this team. I think he's become a better hitter than Soto in a sense. And the reason I say that is because I've seen his approach change, Gary. Now, I really do believe he believes, throughout the whole year in his career, Gary, that yeah, okay. I, in this situation, don't need a home run, right?
Okay.
I'm sure he goes up there and he knows that. But I don't feel like I've ever seen Aaron Judge realize that he doesn't need a home run. Like, it feels like he's always trying to hit a home run, right? Like, it does. Well, lately, if you haven't noticed, I think he had back-to-back 3 for 3 days, which is crazy. But he's been on an absolute burn. I mean, he's now hitting 328 with power. So I wanted to bring it up because I saw today there were times where I felt like he actually could have hit a home run on a pitch. Now, he ended up hitting his, and I get that. But it's the way, like, that outside pitch that has actually kind of plagued him a little bit over the course of his career. Like, if you could get Aaron Judge out, you're throwing outside. You're throwing away from him. He's actually starting to serve that into center field. He's starting to, really be more of a complete hitter. And I really don't mean any respect by that. I think he's getting better, Gary, is what I'm saying.
You know what I think
Aaron
happened?
Judge, well, I'll let you
go ahead.
Finish
it.
Aaron Judge is getting better.
Yep.
Right? He's not going to hit 62 this year. He'll probably hit like around 54 to 56, whatever. I don't think he'll hit 62. I don't think he'll hit more, but he'll do that. So you're telling me that he's getting better, and he was already great. He was already the best hitter in baseball. He's getting better. He's about to get into the 330s, hitting 42 home runs, leading the league in home runs, total bases, RBIs, like all that, right? And he's third in batting average. And you're going to tell me Bobby Witt Jr. is a better player. Now, mind you, Judge plays center field. So you can't pull the whole, well, Ohtani only plays, he's only a DH, right?
Right.
You can't pull that. Aaron Judge plays one of the most demanding positions in the sport at his stature and hits 42 home runs to this point and is leading in almost every offensive category. What is the argument you can make for Bobby Witt Jr.? And I hear all the time, Gary, I heard this with Gunnar Henderson when people were like, well, Gunnar Henderson's in the conversation. This is earlier in the year.
Right.
I hear why isn't he in the conversation? What I would say is, why is there a conversation? Like, I mean, why do that? Why try to make something that is nothing? Okay. Aaron Judge is the best effing player in this league right now. Okay. Until Ohtani pitches, Aaron Judge is the best damn player in the league. And don't give me he's got Juan Soto. I don't give a rip. I don't care that Bobby Witt Jr. plays for Kansas City. If Bobby Witt Jr. had 43 home runs, was hitting the way he's hitting, right, and was leading in RBIs and all of that, Bobby Witt Jr. is a better player than Aaron Judge, and he would get my MVP vote. But no, I get more than 20 more home runs with Aaron Judge. And you're trying to tell me that Bobby Witt Jr., because he plays shortstop and because his batting average is 20 points higher than a guy who's giving 20 more home runs, you're telling me that's more valuable? It's not. So I had to point that out there because I hear that a lot. And I think Bobby Witt Jr. is an outstanding player and he's so much fun to watch.
He's great.
But holy shit, Gary, like, I don't understand how you can even, and hopefully we normalize that in 2025. People stop with the whole, well, you can make an argument. No, you can't. There's no conversation. We don't need to fit. If we already know that this guy's the best, because we're only using stats, right? We're only using stats. If we know he's the best, why do I care who's in second, who's in third, who's in fourth? I don't. So I wish people would stop. But
this reminds me of the Zune. For those of you who are old enough, if you remember, the iPod came out. Okay.
The Zune.
Nothing came close to
just
an
realized what
iPod.
you're talking about.
Nothing. Okay. Everyone wanted an iPod Touch. It was awesome. Okay. I had one. You had one. All your friends had one. But every once in a while, we had this attention-seeking clown. They would
I know what you're talking about.
Why wouldn't you get the Zoom, bro? It's so much better. Gary, it's so much better. I just picked mine up from Target yesterday. And I would look them dead in their face. And what it does, and this is something I was saying when I was 12 years old, because I'm 30 now. So I was about 12 when the Zune came out. And I would tell people, instead of telling me that you're going to buy a Zune, just buy the damn thing. Don't tell me about it, right? And what it does is if you think a Zune is a good product, just buy it and use it. Just you sing the praises of the Zune. Don't tell me about it because I'm not going to be a part of it. And long behold, Zune went way out of business. Just a total dump of a product. But Bobby Witt Jr. is a great player, and you're forcing me. You're like trying to spoon feed me that he's having a better year than Aaron Judge just to manipulate me into having a conversation about a player you care about more than Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, yes, is the best offensive player. He's the best player in the game. Okay. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
I don't give a rip what Bobby Witt Jr. is doing in terms of numbers, because I'll tell you this. When I go watch the Kansas City Royals play, here's one thing I absolutely notice about Bobby Witt Jr. This is a bona fide superstar. No question about it. He's playing in Kansas City. But you know what thing stands out to me when he goes and hits? The other team lets him hit.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting how that works? No one has ever considered, why don't we just put Bobby Witt, put him at first base? And someone will tell you, well, Gary, it's because he has 25 stolen bases. He can run. That's why they don't do it. Oh, really? You know who else has 25 some stolen bases? Shohei Ohtani. They don't walk him either. They don't walk him. The only player in Major League Baseball receiving Barry Bonds treatment is Aaron Judge. So spare me with the talk on WAR. I don't want to hear about hits. I don't want to hear about homers. Batting average, irrelevant. How many runs you scored? RBIs, don't care at all. Show me the reaction of your opponent. What do they say? What are they responding to? When Bobby Witt Jr. comes to the plate, what's the response of the other team? Do they just say post-game, man, that dude's an absolute superstar? Or do they prove it to you that he's at a level we've hardly seen and send him to first base because it's so dangerous to even give him an opportunity? That's the MVP. You want to talk about a most valuable player? It's the dude they're so afraid of, they won't even try. Aaron Judge is making them quit. That's baseball. That's a baseball player right there. So I don't even want to sit here and turn this into Bobby Witt's not as good as Aaron Judge. The dude's a killer. The dude's a stud. He absolutely is. And I hope Kansas City really gets in the mix, especially in October, because baseball deserves to see more. This dude's 24 years old. He just turned 24, like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So this is a dude who's great for the game of baseball. Don't spoon feed. Like, don't give me this conversation. Like he's not in the conversation. He's in the conversation for top 3 in the MVP. You can probably argue he's number 2. Awesome. That's great. Great story. And this is a superstar. But you don't have to manipulate me into this conversation of this, because it's, you know what it's doing? It's really just making this like Jordan LeBron comparison where you just can't enjoy both of them. And I just want to enjoy both of these players. Aaron Judge is going to win the MVP, and it's that simple.
I agree. I love the way you explain that. Bobby Witt Jr. will probably win plenty of MVPs. Aaron Judge is already 32, by the way. So,
yeah,
it's not like he's going to be around forever. It's not like, oh, this is unfair. Bobby Witt Jr., he's 24 and Aaron Judge is 24. People are
worried about Gunnar Henderson. Why isn't Gunnar Henderson in the conversation? Gunnar Henderson will have his day in the sun.
Yeah.
Just go win in October. People are going to be turning their heads to Baltimore. If you guys are winning ball games over and over and over again, and Gunnar Henderson puts up slightly better numbers, I'll throw Gunnar Henderson in the MVP case. He's not in the conversation to eclipse Aaron Judge. It's not close. He's not in the ballpark. He's not approaching the ballpark. It's nothing. So it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, exactly. And the MVP conversation has always bothered me because I feel like to your point, you're always talking about great players and you have to like discredit others. And it bothers me the most because I feel like MVP, and the irony is I'm wearing a Cooper Cup MVP shirt.
Oh,
no,
you didn't.
The irony there. I just realized that.
It couldn't be worse.
And I'll explain. So actually it makes a lot of sense now. So, okay. The MVP bothers me because I think all the MVP, most valuable player, it's just a name for he's the best player in the freaking league. And I think over time we had to, do mental gymnastics and Giga Chad brain and all of a sudden be like, I have an idea. Let's make it the most valuable to their team. Well, so what does that mean? Are you telling me you're not going to give the MVP award to the best player? Are you telling me by doing that, you're saying the best player in the league is not going to get an award because he's not the most valuable to his team?
That's exactly what they're saying. They're saying that Kansas City without Bobby Witt Jr., and I agree with them, Kansas City without Bobby Witt Jr. is a much worse team. No question about that. But why would we benefit great players that play for awful teams? That's stupid.
It's dumb because I had a feeling it was going to go this way. I actually think Judge is going to get shortchanged in a lot of ways by like a lot of votes because I think people are going to hold Soto against him. If you
really think that?
I do. I think he's going to win MVP, right? I do. But I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to come close because I think people are going to be like, well, Judge has Soto. Makes his job easy. I mean, Judge is still getting walked. So it doesn't make his job easy because Judge.
I think Judge is going to hit too many homers. I just can't possibly. I'll tell you this: some writers have absolutely shocked me with their ineptitude. It would just.
It's not even shocking anymore. But
it's not shocking. It would be blasphemous for somebody who considers himself a professional journalist to cover the game of baseball. And I'm not naive to the fact that a lot of these guys are just completely just absolute imbeciles. Some of them, but
the Hall of Fame voters.
Yes, you're gonna tell me that a player is gonna go hit 55 home runs, drive in 142 RBI. Like he's gonna drive in 142. He's gonna hit 340, and you're gonna tell me, yeah, this dude playing in Kansas City who hit 350, he had half as many home runs, and because he stole more bases, yeah, and he played short, he's the MVP of the league. For anyone to even suggest that to me, it would just be, hopefully it's public so I can publicly tell these people how I feel. Now I'll be as professional as I can be, but what else am I supposed to tell you? This is a player whose ops isn't even 1,000. You know, it's great. It's 998. But again, it feels like we're picking apart. Do you see what we're doing here?
Yeah.
We're picking apart a player for not being
the best player.
A Looney Tunes level of baseball player. That's what Aaron Judge is. He's not a real baseball player. He is an absolute video game. Like it feels like we're playing PlayStation 5. This is not real. He goes to the plate, like you said, every swing, our expectation is the ball to leave the yard every single time. And that has nothing to do with Juan Soto. He did this before he got there.
1,100 OPS.
It's not real.
I mean, this is like when you would simulate MLB 2K5. And like Gary Sheffield would have like 63 home runs and then A-Rod would have like 70.
Yeah. And you're like, come on, like it doesn't even feel good because it's so unrealistic.
It's so
and then
ridiculous.
He does that. And by the way, what does this lineup look like when we get Jasson Dominguez, who I want to discuss because that's been in the news. And there was a quote actually, which I want to read from Brian Cashman. He did an interview with MLB Network, and MLB Network Radio brought him on, and he said of Dominguez, he's healthy. Ultimately, the injuries this year prevented him from getting much of the bulk of performance. He's definitely sitting there waiting in the wings if need be, playing mostly in center field. I think we're going to see him in left, right? We're going to get him over in left, as if we didn't know that he could play left field as a center fielder.
He played left field the other night as well.
It's insane that he's still telling us this. He's done multiple positions in his career. He's just waiting in the wings, hungry and waiting to see if he gets his chance. It's nice to know he's available to us if need be. If need be, Jake.
Gary.
He said this. Here's the funniest part of the quote. You can't miss it. There's currently no lane for us to bring him. It's nice to know he's there. He's just knocking rust off and waiting for his opportunity if it comes. He's talking about Jasson Dominguez like it's some girl that he didn't want to date in high school.
You know what is actually kind of funny about this quote? I mean, there's a lot funny about it. So let me just break it down. In a way, this is such a tease towards a 21-year-old kid. Think about it. Yeah, you came up last year, but this year, even though we actually expected you to be up here, you got hurt last year. So then when you were going to come back, you got hurt again. And now Alex Verdugo, who's hitting 239. Well, sorry, that's too much. You can't overcome that. I mean, are we kidding ourselves? Now, I'm still not convinced. I think we actually played detective and we are right, but I think we're going to end up being right most of the time. Sorry,
you think they're going to call him up in early September?
I think they're going to call him up for the Boston series. I think we nailed it. It makes sense. That Boston series, I told you, everything's like, oh, when you call up the prospects, it has to be a big ceremony. It's against Boston, so that could be important. It's at the stadium, and we calculated it. It allows him to essentially, if he's called up, if they wait that long, then it's guaranteed he's not going to have too many at-bats, and he's guaranteed not to have too many games, which secures his Rookie of the Year status for next year. And again, securing his Rookie of the Year status for next year is like that whole God's gift prospect thing the Yankees do, right? So I'll be honest with you, Gary. I think we nailed it when we talked about him. I don't even remember when it was, but that Boston series, September 12th, September 13th, September 14th, September 15th, that series, I don't know which game could be the first one. I don't know. But I think that Boston series is when we see him. And if I'm wrong, then I'm going to say something that is actually going to cause my stomach to burst right now. Are you ready for this?
I don't know if I am. Go ahead.
If he doesn't get called up in, before the season, I don't think he even is on the postseason roster.
Well, we've really fumbled the bag. If that's
I'm not, trust me.
He was healthy twice. And I actually think there's an argument. I don't give a rip what Alex Verdugo's done since the break. I don't care.
Well, he hasn't.
I would rather have Jasson Dominguez, who isn't tuned up, over
I would too.
that.
I mean,
I just don't even think it's
Gary,
close. I think
let me bring you back to where we were.
Astronomical.
Let me bring you back to where we were on the show.
Mm-hmm.
When Verdugo was hitting 261,
right,
we still wanted Jasson Dominguez.
Yes. We talked about the ceiling. The ceiling is, can Alex Verdugo take you as far as Jasson Dominguez can? The answer is no. Not just from me, from anybody. If you ask somebody, where's the ceiling on Alex Verdugo? They'll tell you, well, look at the back of his baseball card. He hits 265. He's got some pop, which he really hasn't shown a ton of this year, but he's got some pop there. He's a guy who has had issues in terms of hustling. He's going to make some of those boneheaded mistakes one would expect from a Gleyber Torres, right? So now we've got two guys who are making those type of crazy mistakes. He actually made another one today, getting backpicked off of first base and then acting like he was a part of a pickle at first base when the first baseman could just turn around and touch first. This is a professional baseball player making this mistake. It was nonsense, right? So when I'm watching a player play that way, I know tomorrow, Alex Verdugo, he's played decent since the break. He can give you 2 hits. That's great. But Jasson Dominguez is a dude who could be the best player on the field every given day. Like, it can happen. He's that type of dude. So I'm not necessarily trying to time this whole Jasson Dominguez thing. Like, let's wait till he's raking in AAA and then simultaneously we want to wait for Verdugo to be hitting 165 for a month and then say, you know what, this swap is just perfect. How about you just call up the dude who you expect to be a superstar and then just wait for him to step into his shoes that you expect him to step into, right? I mean, I just think that's fair.
Yeah.
And the Yankees last time tried to time it perfectly and they got burnt. He ended up straining his oblique. He was out for a month and a half. That was a mistake. I think we can completely admit that rather than hopping on MLB Network and giving me this word salad of nonsense. I don't need it. I don't need this. You're not going to fool me with this quote. Okay. I've been watching the Yankees a long time. You're not going to fool our audience. We handpicked this audience specifically to understand the nuances of the Yankees. That's what we were hoping to build. And we've done that, Jake. The people who show up and watch our shows, they know the Yankees. They're not the type of fans who are going to go, oh, we've got Dominguez waiting in the wings. Awesome. And they just walk off and don't ask any questions. No, we ask questions. That's what we do. And so we're going to continue to do so. So I'm hoping we see Jasson Dominguez sooner rather than later. As you brought up, I do think you're right. I think they're going to scapegoat this whole Jasson Dominguez thing and say, well, he's not necessarily tearing it up in AAA right now. So we're going to take our time and wait for him to start hitting. And just so happens that's going to coincide with September 10th in Boston. So that's the way that seemingly is going to work.
That's how I see it. But if he doesn't get called up by then, I do think he's actually going to be left off the postseason roster. I think that's actually real. And that is a horrifying conclusion.
Good. Trent Grisham over Jasson Dominguez.
So I don't think we've ever brought his baseball savant up, but Jasson Dominguez, baseball savant, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, launch angle, sweet spot percentage, all in the 90th percentile. Obviously he wasn't qualified, so it doesn't say that, but the bar is all the way to the end. Chase, I would say, is around an 80 percentile. Expected slugging is in the 90s. Expected batting average is in the 80s. So yeah, like I gotta be honest with you. The thing that got people excited about the World Series wasn't just adding Juan Soto. It was the prospect of having Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Jasson Dominguez, maybe Austin Wells comes into his own. Volpe, maybe he comes into his own. Giancarlo Stanton, the hope was, okay, he lost weight or whatever. It's going to help him. DJ LeMahieu finished last season, on a good note. Glaber was the best hitter on the team last year when Judge was out. There was a lot to feel. And then Verdugo with just like, he's a contact bat. So you feel good going into the season. And then you start to, take pieces away, right? Or especially Rizzo, right? Before the concussion, people kept bringing it up. Well, Rizzo was great before the concussion. Like he was actually hitting for average. So there's a lot going into this year. They're like, well, this is actually pretty exciting. They have a lot going for them, potentially. Jasson Dominguez, obviously you knew the injury, but you're like, that reinforcement is going to hit so different in July.
You were talking about this. You were just like, imagine we're off to this hot start. We're just going to throw Jasson Dominguez into this lineup. We didn't foresee us falling off a cliff. None of us did. But you were absolutely right. If we didn't expect to maintain what we were doing. We kind of knew that was a little too good to be true. But, I mean, we fell off a cliff. Let's be honest. So if we were just somewhere in the middle, we'd be nursing right now a 4 or 5 game lead over Baltimore. And Jasson Dominguez would just show up full force on this roster. Well, that position is much better than the position we're in now. We're in a dogfight. And we're talking about the idea of leaving Alex Verdugo in left field to start every day. Because as the report says, he's hitting 290 with an ops at 700. That's league average. That's just fine. That's not great. It's just ho-hum. Jasson Dominguez provides much more than that. And that's part of the reason why we're vouching for his presence now. So again, a lot to be excited about. I mean, we won. Baltimore lost today. So we're back tied for first place. And let's remember, we have the weakest schedule in Major League Baseball the rest of the way. Tomorrow, we play the Chicago White Sox. I am coming into this series. Kai Bush is starting for the White Sox against Luis Gil tomorrow. If we lose tomorrow, I will donate my organs. There's no way we can possibly justify going for anything in this series other than a sweep. Don't tell me that this is Major League Baseball and it's really hard to sweep. Don't tell me about double headers if there's a rainout. I don't give a rip. Go out there and take care of business. This is August. The time to screw around and mess around and throw away a game, that was 2.5 months ago. We are in money time now. It's time to go take care of the Chicago White Sox. They can't beat anybody. If they go out and beat the New York Yankees, if we go out and
Did they ever win? Are they still on that losing streak, by the way?
No, they're no longer on the losing streak. They lost like 20 games in a row. They are 28-91 after losing today to Chicago. If you cannot sweep this series, I'm sorry, Jake. I don't even know what word to describe that. So I don't want to get negative before anything's happened because I'm coming into this series with the expectation to deliver a blow to the Chicago White Sox to the point where I'm looking at a 1 or 2 game lead over Baltimore at the end of the series. That's what I'm looking for. So let's get it started on Monday and not mess around.
Yeah, their one win I see here in that to snap that series, the streak was against the Oakland Athletics, Ross Stripling, who has a 5.72 ERA. Yeah, I hear you. I thought you were going to say something that you would actually be able to do because obviously you can't donate your organs.
But I'll donate my organ. I'll just give away a kidney. Take it. I don't need it.
You could probably sell it in the black market for a decent price, though.
Oh, I'll donate my arm, and one of the White Sox guys on their staff could probably use it. I'm telling you, you take it. I'm a podcaster. I could do this thing with one arm. I don't need it.
Oh man, that is so funny.
Oh, by the way, since we won, and I know it was close, and I know you were texting me and freaking out about the game. I mean, I was freaking out too. Let's be honest.
I was freaking out because, and I want to say this before you mentioned that.
I'm just gonna give a movie. So go ahead.
Yeah,
it's nonsense.
Yeah, so Mark Leiter Jr.
Yeah,
I want to point it out because we kind of stabbed Boone a little bit in the last episode, so I'm gonna calm down a little bit on that because I thought there were some good things from Boone.
Really?
But today, I think last night, like I guess his mistake last night with Mark Leiter Jr. that we highlighted, you highlighted a 9-1 ball game and he's pitching. One of your high leverage relievers. You use him just like you used Tommy Kahnle. You use them within the last 24 hours. Okay. This causes Leiter Jr. to have the worst outing he's had all year. To this point, he had only given up 2 home runs all year. He had an
outlier performance today.
He had a very outlier performance, and I think it was because he literally had just pitched the night before. This leads to you having to use Clay Holmes. Now, mind you, the last time Clay Holmes was used, right, was the 7th. Okay? It was the 11th.
That's 4 days ago.
Clay Holmes, we talk about, you have to use him just to keep him fresh. Like, you actually have to use him to keep him fresh. It's not the way that people think. People think, oh, fresh. Like, Clay Holmes hasn't pitched in 4 days. He's going to be great. Doesn't work that way with Clay Holmes. He can't go 3 days without pitching. Definitely not.
Yeah, he relies on feel, clearly.
So we saw that essentially the mistake Boone made last night almost cost him the game today. And now you put out Clay Holmes in a position that is now a save situation. And it's a closer that's blown more saves than anybody in the league, right? So you put him in a save situation because Mark Leiter Jr. had an outlier performance because you put him in when he was just used last night. And Clay Holmes had to pitch 45. He had to throw 45 pitches.
You know what this reminds me of?
And I don't blame Clay Holmes in the slightest. I will say that.
No, not at all. This reminds me of Joe Madden. Do you remember that conversation we had about Joe Madden using Aroldis Chapman in the World Series?
Oh, yes.
He pitched him for like 2.5 innings, inexplicably up like 7 runs. Chapman eventually throws like 50 pitches. He's exhausted. He's throwing like 95 miles an hour. Eventually, the Cubs win the game. Then he tries to use him in a high leverage situation the next game, which was game 7. And he gets rocked. Rajai Davis, right? The rest is history. Thankfully, they end up winning that World Series.
Yes.
But this is why your management of the bullpen, I know Girardi talks about this all the time. They mention what's the hardest part about being a manager. He said it's absolutely utilizing your bullpen. That's the job. It's like in the NFL. What do you do? Like everyone talks about X's and O's and everyone's record. You know what really matters in the NFL? What you do in the last 2 minutes of a game. What do you do then? How do you manage the clock? If you have no clock management, why are we even talking about how good you are as a coach? You're not good at all. And most of the coaches in the NFL or in any sport where we say, yeah, that guy's elite, he knows what to do when pressure's on. And that's something that we have to do here. We have to be consistent. So yeah, that's managing our bullpen has been an issue. And I think in general, I didn't mind the way we used our bullpen today. It was just what the prerequisite was, which was yesterday using Leiter really just set everything in motion.
Just because Kahnle didn't kill you. I mean, he gave up a run, but it was unearned because of the error. And we'll avoid
the error
that.
Was bad.
We'll avoid that because that was bad. But Kahnle had just pitched too. So I don't know why De Los Santos wasn't used. I don't know why they sent down Ron Marinaccio. I really didn't understand where they were going with that. So, Clay Holmes, I'm actually going to give a tip of the cap to Clay Holmes. That was a gutsy performance. That was not easy. He came in and it was a save situation. This is a game that should have been over. And he came in and they basically said, Clay, you're on your own, buddy. 45 pitches, 24 strikes, and he got the job done. He had 2 strikeouts and he had 5 whiffs. So yeah. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but they literally were like, this is all on you. Get yourself out of this jam. And he was just like, because the dude hadn't pitched in 4 days. So yeah. I just wanted to, I wanted to give everyone the movie. Oh, Interstellar. Okay.
Interstellar. One of the greatest movies, if not the greatest movie. I still have
never seen it. I want to. It's near the top of my list. I actually almost watched it the other night.
Are you joking?
I'm dead serious. Dead serious.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing open tryouts for my next co-host of Yankees Unloaded. Are you kidding me, Jake?
I've never seen.
You haven't seen Interstellar.
Well, you have to understand something. When I was living with my folks, I didn't watch too many movies. Like I watched
You're a content creator for you. You literally work at home. How can you not watch Interstellar? You have all the time in the world.
Now I have.
I'm forcing you. This is your homework for this week. You have got to watch Interstellar, please.
Yes. Now I'm catching up. I mean,
dude, my Lord.
I just saw Goodfellas last year, bro. Like,
oh, okay.
But I still haven't seen The Godfather. Like, I have to watch that. Like, there are a lot of movies. Schindler's List, right?
Okay.
What's the one movie that everyone tells me to watch? Oh my God, I can't remember.
I tried to watch Fight Club the other day. I couldn't get into it.
Oh, it's so good.
I turned it on. I thought there was going to be some action, and it's literally just some dude going to these rehab things. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like, where's Brad Pitt? Like, it was 40 minutes into the movie. I hadn't seen Brad Pitt once.
Huh. I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, but it's a great movie. I guess maybe it's a slow burn early on, but hey, I don't care because as long as it's all right. You named a great movie, a good movie in your eyes. I still haven't seen it, and you guys have to drop Interstellar if you've gotten to this point.
Yes,
I'm gonna name a movie that'll probably piss people off because I tried to like it. I thought I was gonna like it. I think the idea of cyberpunk is really cool, but holy shit, I don't know how you mess up a movie with Harrison Ford in it. But I'm not gonna lie to you when I say Blade Runner was the most boring movie I've ever seen in my life.
I never saw it.
It was so boring. And I feel bad saying it because I love Harrison Ford. And I love the whole cyberpunk thing, but I feel like there were so many things they could have done with that. And it just talk about a slow burn. It just, that shit just drags. And I just thought at the end of the day, the plot was really lame. So I probably just pissed off somebody. I'm sorry. This is the human element of our show. I want to make that very clear. The end of our show. If you want to get to know us a little bit more, the end of our show. I
think people are going to be more pissed that you haven't seen Schindler's List and some of those other.
Oh yeah, I'll get.
I'm telling you, The Godfather. I guarantee you, because I know based on the way our show is constructed, people.
These are smart, articulate people that have seen great movies and
which is usually time people on stupid
of age, movies.
Which is more than likely people our age or older that tend to go more into detail. Because Gen Z, there are some standouts who do, but there are a lot of Gen Zers that just it's not. They're not going to sit down and watch The Godfather. The Godfather's a 3-hour movie, and they don't condense anything. They show you a whole wedding. So yeah, that's all. That's all I'm going to say about it. I think you should watch it.
Yeah, I watched 2 movies last night. They're totally polar opposites. One called Creep. That was something. I didn't hate it, but it was a little out there. And then I watched A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
that was hilarious. I love that.
There are no comedies anymore. We don't. I think partially people just get in trouble with everything now. And so comedies are kind of a touchy subject. People don't want to do it. So I think it'll come back at some point.
Eddie Murphy brought it back. Beverly Hills Cop 4 was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I didn't see it.
I love that series. So your mom had actually been like, wait, they they came out with a fourth one on Twitter. Shout out Gary's mom.
Thanks, Mom.
So anyway,
Ridiculous.
that's going to do it. Appreciate you guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I don't think we've said to subscribe in like any of our shows the last like 4 or 5 times. So be sure
Which
to
is
hit
probably
the
why we've
subscribe
got
button.
like 5,000 views and like 40 subscribers.
I know it was going crazy. Now it's like, but no, all jokes aside, Interstellar, drop in the comment section if you got to this point. We appreciate your support as always. And we'll see you guys. And yeah, the Yankees White Sox tomorrow. How about that? We knew it was coming, but they're finally playing the worst team in the league.
Thankfully. And like this video.